Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you today to our webinar, Power Platform and Introduction for Beginners. I've got straight up 1 o'clock here Eastern. We've got several people coming in right now, so I'm going to just go back on mute here for a minute and give folks an opportunity to join us. I'll just be a minute or two, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So just hang on here for just a minute, and we'll be right back. All right, I think we will go ahead and get started. So again, I wanted to welcome everybody to our webinar today on Power Platform and Introduction for Beginners. I've got just a couple of quick housekeeping items I want to mention before we get started. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, and we certainly do encourage any questions you might have, we would ask that you would please submit those through the GoToWebinar question box in the panel that you have up there. And we will be back around to answer any questions following the presentation today. We are also recording today's presentation. You will get an email tomorrow with a link to the recording of this session. So that's it for housekeeping. I'd like to introduce Aaron Moon. Aaron is a senior consultant, Power Platform and D365 CE here at Velosio. Aaron will be taking you through today's presentation. I will be back around at the end to facilitate any questions that you might have. And again, certainly encourage those questions, and please use the GoToWebinar question box for those. So, well, I think that does it for housekeeping. So without any further ado, I will turn it over to Aaron.
All right, thank you, Rocky. Hello and welcome. My name is Aaron Moon. Really appreciate everyone joining this session to talk about the Power Platform. It's a set of tools that are fairly new, developed by Microsoft, and they're really aimed at helping businesses in their digital transformation efforts. So being able to build business applications, gathering insights from data, automating processes. There's a wide range of things that we can do with this platform. And we're going to talk about those things today. Like Rocky mentioned, my title is a Senior Power Platform Dynamics 365 CE Consultant. So I'm working with, Velosio's, our clients, that have these different applications, these different platforms, doing different things with sales, customer service, project service, but particularly with the Power Platform, we're focused on a lot of different aspects that can plug into those Dynamics 365 or Dynamics applications, Office applications that many of our clients have. So I really started focusing on Power Platform in 2018, and have really enjoyed, getting involved with these tools. And so today I'm going to hopefully be able to talk about some examples, a little bit about what these tools can do, and speak to some of my experience there. So let me just cover a quick agenda for what I want to talk about today. The first thing is I want to give an overview of the Power Platform, what it is, why Microsoft built these tools, and then we're going to take a closer look at 3 of the main tools that we have with the Power Platform, and those are Power BI, Microsoft Flow, and Power Apps. So those closer look sections, we're going to dive into each of those in a little bit more detail. Now again, this is an introduction. It's not meant to get into too much of the weeds. We're going to stay high level, talk about what these can do and what they are. And then at the end, we'll wrap up and sort of talk about what this means for you. So as we dive into the overview of the platform, we have to start the conversation with the Microsoft Intelligent Cloud. And this is really the base of a lot of the solutions, if you will, that we are developing. And it starts with our Dynamics 365 applications. So our applications like Dynamics 365 for sales or customer service, project service, but also Dynamics 365 for finance and operations, or BC, Business Central. These all provide a base from which your organization can, install one of these applications and begin to use many features and functionalities that they have. And when we sort of are looking at an organization and your processes, again, this is where we start, but we can begin to tack things on and sort of work with different areas. One being the app source. So oftentimes these Dynamics 365 applications are a little bit more general. They have a lot of functionality, but sometimes when you're in a particular industry, there's something that you need to fit your industry or your scenario. And the first place we can look for a solution or something that can help you do your job, your day-to-day, is the Microsoft App Source. And there are industry solutions out there that will plug into Dynamics 365 that will extend your capabilities and what you can do. Something else that we look at is your Office 365, so your collaboration, communication tools, what you're using with your teams, and those tools there. So we can look at plugging those in to help with your productivity. And those can connect in with Dynamics 365 applications as well. We have more technical tools, things like the Common Data Service, which is a database, a place to store data online, or we have things like AI and Azure services that can help us to extend and sort of build more technical solutions when we need to. And finally, what we're talking about today is the Power Platform, which is Power BI, Power Apps, and Microsoft Flow. And these tools connect into everything that I've talked about so far. So these tools can work with Dynamics. They can connect to Office 365 and other solutions, other Microsoft products. And so these three are what we're focusing on today, and I want to break these out in a little bit more detail. Okay, so to start off, we have Power BI. This is a tool that allows us to do business intelligence. We can create reports and visually appealing dashboards that our users can view data and gain insights from that data. We have Microsoft Flow, which is a workflow automation service. It is an online service, and it connects different applications together. So when you talk about, you have multiple different applications that your business may use, Flow is a tool that can automate processes between those applications. Often where we see common gaps in a process is when you have to cross between two different applications. And sometimes people solve that problem with manual process or some other sort of way to work around that gap. Flow is a way that we can often bridge that gap and continue the process, keep the process moving. Finally, we have Power Apps, which are a suite of application building tools, services, connectors. It's a whole platform in and of itself that allows you to build business applications in a rapid manner, in a cost-effective manner, and they're really, really powerful. So that's one of the big portions that we'll talk about today. So what we're going to do next is just dive into each of these different areas and take a closer look. So starting with, well, actually, I threw an extra slide in here. I'm messing up my own cadence, but I have one extra thing I need to talk about before we jump into Power BI. So this is actually very important. It's a key concept that is going to go sort of underneath a lot of these tools. And that is, I mentioned it on my slide with the Microsoft apps and services. This is the Common Data Service. It is a online database, and it can be used to store your data online. And oftentimes when we're talking about these tools, this database is a place where we will be storing our data and connecting and accessing our data there. And this Common Data Service database is very robust. When you spin up a database, it comes with a common data model. So right in the center of this graphic here, you'll see that common data model. And that is standard entities or tables within the database that represent common business scenarios. And so when you, again, spin up that database, it comes ready to go with these different, to support these different business scenarios, and you can begin to push your data into this database and store it there. Now we can extend that data model, and that's where it says custom entities or custom tables. We can add to this data model to support whatever business scenario you may have. And so we can add things like fields and relationships to as well to sort of build out this data model. We have security as part of this data service that is very powerful, can model hierarchies and support row level security. We have an API and we have real-time sync that can pull data into this database or interact with the data layer through the APIs. And then ultimately, the way this all connects, and the reason I wanted to throw this in here and mention it, was the fact that it's commonly used with these tools that we're talking about today. So if you were to store your data in this database, it's online, it's accessible, Power BI could easily connect to it and then begin to build visualizations, reports, dashboards off of this database. In the same way, Microsoft Flow, that automation service, could interact with this data, manipulate the data, change it, or use that data as part of its process. And then finally, Power Apps, which is the big one we'll talk about at the end today. These applications can be built on top of this database. So we could have a business application that stores its working data, its data within the Common Data Service database. Okay, so I wanted to cover that concept. I'm going to bring it up as I go through, but now I do want to jump into taking a closer look at Power BI. So as I mentioned, Power BI is a reporting and dashboarding tool. It allows you to gather your data from wherever it is. So connecting to different services and apps, pulling that in, and then building a data model that makes sense and you can understand. So you'll see the different logos here of where Power BI can pull data from, things like SQL, even from, it's got the Edge or Internet Explorer logo you can pull from online, from the cloud, from Excel, lots of other different options there. But you pull that in, and then when you can gather your data and understand it, you can begin to build those charts and graphs to understand your data and make sense of it. So Power BI is really powerful, and it has three main components. I just want to cover those three quickly. So the first is Power BI Desktop, which is a desktop application that report builders can use. So people who are building these reports and gathering the data can use that desktop tool to do that activity. But then once you've actually pulled in the data, you've manipulated it, and you've built reports, you can then publish that to what's called the Power BI service. And this is really just a web application. You navigate it through your browser to just a URL, and this is where your users, the consumers of these reports, can log in to see the visualizations and see the information. So we build it in the Power BI desktop and we publish it to the service for our users to consume. And there's lots of functionality in the service that even allows you to build some reports and can build some personal, dashboards for yourself based on what has been built on the desktop version. And then ultimately, if you need to take this, information on the go, if you want to check these reports while you're on your mobile phone, you can do that with the Power BI mobile app. So again, we were able to publish this, build it on this desktop version. We publish it out to the service, and then that's available within the mobile app. So Power BI is really pervasive. A lot of our clients are using Power BI these days. And I think that this graph, this next slide here, well, it might be a little bit of an eye chart, a little small, shows where Microsoft is with Power BI. So this is a report, this is the Gartner Magic Quadrant. This is from February of 2019 of this year. And Microsoft is, I threw in an arrow here, at the very, very top. So they are far and away the leader in their vision of what completeness of their vision for analytics and BI, and also their ability to execute on that vision, which is the two different axes here. And so when we think about Power BI, that tool has really become well used, it's pervasive. And it's because Microsoft is really investing in this area, and it's really taken off. So if you don't have experience with Power BI, if you haven't used it yet, I recommend you take a look at it. It's a great way to connect to your data wherever that data may be, and build reports and dashboards that then your end user, whoever, if that's a C-level person or if that's a manager level, whoever that person is, they can easily consume that through a browser or through their mobile device. Okay, next I want to take a closer look at Microsoft Flow. As I mentioned, Microsoft Flow is an online workflow automation service. It's cloud-based. It's a tool that allows you to automate workflows across multiple applications and services, and we're able to do this without needing a developer to help. So these can be built by your everyday employee, and when we build these, we're basing these off of a trigger, something that's going to cause this to happen, and then we can specify which actions the flow should be taking. And when we talk about what flow can do, there's such a broad range, but this slide here just shows some of the big buckets of things that it can do. Sending notifications when something happens, sending an email or a text or a push notification to a mobile device. It can do things like synchronizing or moving files, so moving things, SharePoint or OneDrive, interacting with those types of services, Dropbox. It can also work with data, so collecting data, manipulating data, working with some of our Dynamics applications or SharePoint lists, with lots of different options there for working with data. And then also approvals. Flow has an approval engine that's very powerful, very easy to set up within Flow. And I have an example of an approval that I want to show today. So we're thinking about what Flow can do. There's so many options, and one of the ways that you can get started quickly is by using these templates that are out on the flow.microsoft.com portal. You can go out and search a list of these templates, and it's basically things that other people have done already. So they've figured out that it might be nice to connect Dropbox and OneDrive, and they've built a flow to do something there. And so you can go out, find a template that you're interested in, and when you click on it and open it up, you get the option to basically create that flow in your environment. It will be created from the template, and you basically just need to turn it on in order for it to start working. So it's a very easy way to start using flow right away. Now, a lot of these templates here, you'll see it just have, they're fairly simple. Moving OneDrive photos to Google Drive photo, it's going to be a sort of a two-step sort of thing. You get the photo, you put the photo in the new place, which is pretty simplistic. But with Flow, we do have the option to get a little bit more complicated and handle more advanced scenarios if we need to. So we can add multiple actions. There's no limit to the number of actions that you can do with one flow. So we could have multiple steps. We can do different conditional branches. If this, then that sort of thing. We can do looping through things and performing actions on groups. There's lots of capability here with Flow that can really lead it towards being more of an integration tool than a simple workflow tool. And that is because Flow is actually the younger brother of Azure Logic Apps, if you will. And so Azure Logic Apps is Microsoft's newer integration solution that allows you to integrate different applications or systems together and connect those. And Flow is a simplified version of that service. So it does have some of those integration capabilities. Okay, so I want to show a flow example, and for this I've chosen to do an approvals process because I think that the approval is really quite cool and it's very easy to set up. So I'm going to walk through this process and just to set the backdrop for you, basically what I have is the scenario we're working with is that a resource needs to get a document approved by their manager. Okay, so a Word document approved by their manager. And I'm going to play the role, we're going to start off in the role of the resource. So what I've done is I've taken my document, my Word document, I've uploaded it to this SharePoint document library. So I've just put it out on SharePoint. And I want my manager to take a look at this document and tell me whether or not it's good to go or not. So I've uploaded the document was the first step, and then I have selected the document. You'll see that I've got it sort of checked off there on the highlighted next to the document name. And what I'm able to do is go up to the command bar and find the flow button. And when I select the flow button, it gives me access to flows that I can run on this particular document. Okay, and so I'm going to run the demo request manager for approval for my selected document flow that I created for this example. And when I click to basically start the flow, I get prompted on the right-hand side of my screen with a little window that's basically saying you're about to run this flow. And it actually asks me if I want to send a message, provide a message that will go to my manager. So I'm able to say, please take a look at this document, especially look at paragraph number 4. And then when I hit run flow, the flow is going to be triggered in the background, and it's going to go out there, find who my manager is, and ultimately it's going to send them a request for the approval. It wants to send them the information for them to approve. And the way it does that is it actually just sends an email. So my manager, we're now switching to the manager's perspective. The manager would receive this email here, and it says a request for approval, and it's a little bit small, but it's actually got a link to that document out on SharePoint, and it also has the details or the message that I provided. So if I had put in there, please look at section number XYZ, they would see that information within the body of the email. And this email actually allows me to reject or approve right from the email. I can select the approve button, and this will kick off and continue the process just without me ever having to leave my email. So for a manager, that's a great way to do this. If you're on the go, or if you're living in your inbox, you can just receive that email, look at the details, click to open the document if you wanted, and then choose to approve or reject. Now, we receive the email, the manager receives the email, but they also will receive this request in two other places. And those places are number one, in the Flow portal, the flow.microsoft.com portal. You can go, my manager could log in, go to the approval section, and actually see this approval that I have sent. The other place they could look at this information is actually within the Flow mobile app. There's a mobile app for Flow that's very powerful. And either of these places, if you looked in the email, in the portal, or the mobile app, my manager would have the opportunity to view the details, my message, whatever I sent. They'd be provided with that link to the document, and they would be able to approve or reject in any of those places. So it's really powerful, quickly distributes to the manager to make that decision. So when my manager does approve, we'll say that they approve my request, there is an email that is sent back to the original requester, basically saying that, hey, it's either been approved or it's been denied. Here's the result. And if my manager needed to provide any comments, especially if they're rejecting this, they could put those in there and we could make those appear. This screenshot here is of the email that the requester could receive with the details. So it's just an example of a quick approval process. This is all done using Flow. And what the next slide I have here shows is how I actually built this flow. And it's very simple. I'm now showing what the flow designer looks like. And you'll see these different lines represent the different steps that are happening within the flow. The very first step is a SharePoint step, and that is actually the trigger, what causes the flow to start. And it's based on when I select that document. For the selected document, it's going to start this flow. And then the following steps are the actions, the things that are happening. We've got these important thing to notice is the logos. We're connecting to SharePoint. We're connecting to Office 365. We're connecting to the Flow Approvals engine. And finally, down at the bottom, we're actually sending an email. And so we're doing all of this with just Flow. We're building it in this visual sort of designer so we can see what the steps are. And you'll see even, you can see that we're doing a conditional step here. So I've got a yes and no branch down at the bottom, and that's based on whether or not the approval was approved or whether or not it was denied. So it'll go into the yes branches if approved, it'll go no into the no branch if it's denied. And so it's very easy to go in here and create these. I actually started from a template in order to do this. There's a template for approving SharePoint documents. I started from the template and tweaked a couple things just to make it work best for my demo. But it's very easy to get started and start using Flow. Okay, I want to get into our last main section here, which is Power Apps, which is probably the section that I am most excited about. And with Power Apps, again, these are business application building tools. It's a platform, it's in and of itself that really allows us to build business applications quickly. And a lot of times, not every business process can justify custom development, right? Not every business process can justify building their own application for whatever they need. But Power Apps can be a way of implementing some of those projects, some of those needs that don't go forward today, either by the same teams or even being built by end users themselves. These tools are really meant to be easy to use. They don't require any developing developer experience. There's no code involved with these tools, and so they're really powerful. And the slide I've got showing here is breaking out. There's actually two main types of apps that we can build. The first type is Canvas apps, and Canvas apps really are focused on your user and a singular group of people or person, and maybe what they need to do for a particular task, a particular process. So they're more focused apps, but these apps, we're focused on the user's experience as well, and we've got the designer tool is what we call WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get, which basically means that we can make this app look exactly how we want it to look. We can tweak things, we can move things around, we can change colors, we can change the sizing, we can really just move this around so that as we're designing it, we make it look the way we want it to look. And then when our user actually runs the Canvas app, it's going to look the same as when we were designing it. And so there's no abstraction layer there. It's you are building what you're going to get. What you see is what you're going to get. And one other real key with the Canvas app is that we can mash up data from lots of different data sources. So within one screen of a Canvas app, we could be pulling in data from a Dynamics application, from SharePoint, from Office, from an Excel file. We could be pulling data from a number of different data sources, a third-party application, and within one screen, we could use data from all of those different places, and our user does not need to know the difference. They won't know that they're connecting to all of those different things behind the scenes because they're presented with one screen that allows them to just do what they need to do, and everything else happens behind the scenes and works great. So Canvas apps really powerful. User experience is what we're focused on. Normally a more focused experience in terms of a role or person that might be using the app for a particular reason, but then we have that ability to connect to lots of different data sources. The model-driven apps, the second type of application, are a little bit different in that they do not connect to the hundreds of data sources that the Canvas app does. The model-driven app actually connects to that common data service database that we spoke about at the beginning. I wanted to take the time to throw that in here. They are built solely on a database, on that CDS database. Now, there's ways that we can connect to other data sources and pull in data if we need to, but they're really starting with a data model in that database. That's where the name model comes from. And we're able to really represent more full enterprise end-to-end process scenarios with these applications because of that. Because we're building on a full sort of relational data model, we've got all of our data in that one place. We build these applications to handle lots of different scenarios, maybe more robust team needs. One way that we often look at the difference between these two is the Canvas app is often the front line, the person who's in the field, maybe using a Canvas app, while the person who's doing more back office and administrative tasks may use a model-driven app, just for the different types of things that they may be doing. Okay, so I want to push forward here. I've just got a couple slides I want to detail and show exactly what each of these might look like a little bit more. So first, let's talk about the Canvas Power Apps. So I've got a screenshot here of the editing tool for Canvas apps. You'll see in the middle of the screenshot is our blank canvas that we start with, and then we're using that designer tool to build the app and make it look exactly how we want it to look. With these apps, we're adding components, adding pieces one at a time and clicking and dragging them around. but the way that we can make our app work is by using expressions or formulas within Canvas apps. And this is a unique formula language developed just for Canvas apps. They're very similar to Excel, but there are a lot of formulas that are different that you have to learn to sort of understand what they do and how we can make the different parts of our app interact together in the ways that we need them to. So this is what the designer experience would look like. I'm going to jump ahead here. Again, with Canvas apps, we can connect to those 200 plus data sources. We also have the ability to connect to on-premise data. So we can install an on-prem data gateway onto a server where a SQL database may reside, and then actually connect directly with a Canvas app to that data, build an app on top of that database. And if there's some data source that's not available, we do have the ability to build custom connectors, which is what the Canvas app uses to access whatever that data source may be. So I just want to show a quick example of Canvas Power App. This application is for a airline to check in flights. So for the people that are on the ground checking in a flight as it's landing at the airport, they're able to open up this app, and you'll see I've got it open on a browser in this screenshot, but it is in a layout to work on a mobile device. So this is optimized to be used for someone on a mobile phone who can log in, say who the airline is, say the flight number, say what time they arrive, and then they can continue on to the next page by hitting that check-in flight button. Jumps to the next screen where they can enter more information, and we can then sort of guide a user through a process like this. We might have multiple screens that they're filling out data, filling out information that we need from them. And then at the end, they're hitting, complete to complete that process and go back to the beginning, go back to the home page of the app. And so this is an example of how these apps can be more task based or more focused, right? This is a particular process that this app has been built to do. This is all it does, but it does it very well. All right, so that was a Canvas apps. I want to show you a little bit more about the model-driven apps and do a little compare contrast here. So model-driven apps, as opposed to the WYSIWYG designer, are more component focused. So we're taking larger components and configuring or changing those. So we have things like forms that can control, shows different data points and allows the user to view or edit that information. And we can build those, but again, we're more focused on changing some different aspects of it as opposed to clicking and dragging, moving it around. We're using this UI that you see in the screenshot here that's actually coming from the Dynamics 365 world. So the UI that we're using is being given to us by Microsoft. It's the latest and greatest from Dynamics 365. And so as opposed to the Canvas app where you're literally building your user interface, your UI, here we're starting with a UI from Microsoft and then tweaking some different components and changing some different things about it. One of the benefits of the model-driven app and using this interface that's provided to us is that it comes with a lot of features pre-baked. When we spin up one of these applications, we spin up this standard UI and we get a lot of different things included that Microsoft has included with this interface that they've built. And it is responsive in that it can be used on a mobile device, it can be used on a browser, and it will look good in either of those places. Okay, so that's the model-driven app. And again, when we're talking about building and designing, it's very different. This is where the designer tool for a model-driven app. It allows us to click into each of those different things that you see on the screen there and edit a little bit more about that particular component. So editing the menu versus editing the form, versus editing a list of records. They're all different components that we can navigate into and edit some of those, the details about those components. But again, we're not clicking and dragging like we do with Canvas. And the result here is just a little bit bigger screenshot of what a model-driven app can look like. Is we have a very sophisticated looking interface. We've got a menu on the left-hand side with command bars and the menu bar at the very top that allows us to really have some functionality and build out maybe more of an enterprise environment or application. So that brings me sort of to the recap here, which is the Power Platform is all three of these things: Power Apps, Power BI, Microsoft Flow. And for businesses who need to connect existing systems or improve individual team and productivity, streamlining processes, if you want better insights for decision making, this platform can basically provide you tools to speed up this application development and empower people who are not developers to create workflows and reports and dashboards. And ultimately, it's providing a better user experience for your end users with these different things. And again, these tools do have native connectivity to Dynamics, to Office, to other applications. We saw all those connectors to different services. And ultimately, we have Azure as our backbone underneath a lot of these things. We have the common data service that we can store data in if we need that online database. And just to throw some numbers out there, with the Power Platform, Microsoft is reporting that customers can reduce their application development cost and effort by 70%. Ongoing application management, maintenance cost and effort by 38. They can improve worker productivity by 15% through streamlined automated processes. And all of this paired with basically improved decision making, because if you have better access to your information, your users are giving you more data, you have more efficient processes, ultimately you're going to have better insights, better decision making, better outcomes. So the story here around Power Platform is very strong, and I do encourage you to reach out into these if you are interested in using any of them. Just call to action. Velosio is ready to help you. If you are looking to utilize these tools, reach out to us. We offer a number of different services or different things that you can utilize. The first is briefing. So we do these no obligation informational briefings that are an hour long, and it's basically just a meeting for us to meet with you, and it's designed to educate you on the Power Platform, talk about these things if you want to go over some of these things again, the benefits, and just align on how you could be able to use these tools. We also do project engagements. So if you have an idea for something, we can do a proof of concept, where it's a sort of temporary, maybe 2 to 4 week process where we try to build a solution or something that can be shown internally to your organization as sort of a, hey, this is a way that this tool could be used, something for you to look at and actually play with and try out these tools. We also just do solution implementations. If you've got an idea or a reason to build a Power App, or you want to build some reports and dashboards with Power BI, or if you need a workflow automation, just a paid engagement for us to help you build that Power Platform solution. Or if you're just interested in learning more, or if you've got some individuals you think would like to learn these and get up to speed on how to build these, we offer a number of different things. We do in a day events. So an app in a day event is a 1 day, 8 hours, where we basically walk you through building an application, multiple applications actually, that you get to do hands-on labs, and it's really just an exposure to what these things are, but more hands-on than we've been today, actually letting you get your hands dirty a little bit and really have an idea of what's possible. Or if you're that person who really wants to build and get more in-depth training, we offer more customized maker for someone who's building apps or building reports, that sort of training, or administrative training if you're in an IT role and you're wondering how to manage these things that are these tools that are out there. So again, we're happy to help. Please reach out if you do have any questions. And I guess we've got some time left now. I think Rocky, that's all I had. So I will turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate that. Appreciate your presentation today. We do have a couple questions.
Oh, all right.
Before I get those over to you, Aaron, I'll just encourage everyone again to, if you do have any questions, please go ahead and use the GoToWebinar question box there and type those in there, and we'll get these over to Aaron. So, Aaron, first question. Can Flow either warn, forward, or reject if someone has out of office alert enabled?
That is a great question. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but I can try to figure that out. If whoever that is, if I can get some contact information. But that is it's a great question, and I would like to figure out how to do it.
Okay, great. We can get back with Larry on that, not a problem. Next question, kind of semi-related, is what kinds of audit trails are available? If I send images of vendor invoices for manager approval, what can I show my auditors as approval for that invoice?
Great question. So within the flow approvals area, there is history. So it does track those approvals, whether or not they've been approved or denied, and the information about them. So if you do have, an approvals trail that you would need to go back and look through, you can get that from the Flow portal.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. It does not look like we've got any other questions. While we are waiting here and giving everybody just another minute, if they do have anything they'd like to type in, I just would like to let everybody know that Aaron and the rest of his team are actually preparing a series of PowerPoint webinars that they'll be providing here over the next couple of months. So keep your eyes out for those. If you do not get our weekly Power Your Next client communication, please reach out to your CSM, your client success manager, and make sure you're getting that mailing. That weekly mailing that comes out on Monday mornings has all of our latest information, news, upcoming events, things that you need to know to kind of keep you in the know. So if you're not getting that every Monday morning, please reach out to your CSM and they'll make sure you're signed up for that. And you can always check out any of our upcoming events on our events page, and that's at velosio.com events. So I don't see any more questions coming in, Aaron. So again, I would certainly like to thank everyone for attending and certainly take advantage of any of these what's next opportunities that Aaron and his team are providing for next steps. And Aaron, any other closing remarks from yourself then?
Well, I just did a quick search looking around for the first question about the out of office. I'm seeing right now that there is basically a request to the Flow team to add a feature for recognizing the out of office status and being able to afford it to someone else. So right now, I'm not seeing that as something that is available, but that's something that hopefully will come in the future, as it's marked as something that they're going to be trying to add in. So.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you for the quick response there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. Again, we certainly want to thank you for spending a little bit of your time with us today. I'm sure this was hopefully helpful and informative for you, and we certainly look forward to seeing you on one of our future Power Platform webinars here. So thank you again for joining, and have a great rest of your day.